Thank you so much for being here and either thinking about getting these presets or having bought them and wanting to see a bit more about how they work. I'm going to be talking through a little bit more about each one in more detail before giving you some real examples and showing you them on a variety of raw files. It's really important to me that you get as much as you can out of these. They've become such a staple in my workflow. They save me loads of time, and I'm going to show you some of the tips and tricks that I do when using these presets to get the best images possible. First of all, I just want to say presets do not fix poor quality images, and that a good understanding of your camera lighting and editing in consistent environments will yield the best results. We've all been there, especially in the newer stages, getting presets and wondering why we're not in love with the photo, only to realise months later that actually it was the light or the time of day or all these other factors. And there are loads of things that you can do to improve your understanding of how to make images better. Just know that what you get out of these presets will depend on what you're working with to begin with. So I'm going to start with nostalgia. This, you can see on the left, we've got the raw, and then on the right, we've got the skin tones. We've got a gorgeous little bit of grain here, and the tones are really earthy. This one's got really lovely, like a slight green tint to the shadows, low contrast vibes, and I just love this. I love this for dinner parties, alfresco dining, ambient light, newborn and maternity photography, because it just gives you like this gorgeous, really just natural, intimate vibe. It looks great on couples and people. It also looks great on like ambient setting. Then we've got Soft Touch, which was actually developed because my go-to preset, which we're going to come on to next, sometimes because there's a little bit of contrast in it, the raw images just don't need that. So I've gone through and I've tweaked it, changed the colours ever so slightly, really focused on getting healthy glowy skin. And all of my presets, it's worth saying, they work on a variety of skin tones. That's something that's really important to me because I work with all sorts of clients and I want to make sure that everybody feels represented in my work and that I'm always editing for the skin basically. So if you look into this, it's ever so slightly the changes, but it just makes the skin glow, comes across a little bit smoother, and just really gives whoever's in your image it's like a filter, but not a filter. And then we've got Soul Food, which is my go-to preset. This is the one that I use on 85 to 90% of my images. Maybe less than that actually, because I do adore black and white. Yeah, this is my go-to. It looks great with flash. Then we come on to the black and white, which is probably what I'm most known for as a photographer. I get a lot of love for my black and white edits, and it's very different to a lot of the ones that are out on the market at the moment, which are more light and low contrast, I guess I would describe them as. But yeah, we've got two. We've got Old Hollywood and Pearl, which I'm going to put side by side in a moment for you to see. But yeah, I just love this. I love the shadows. I love that there's a really slight sepia tone in it. I've got a real love for old vibes, which is where this name come from, and I'm not quite ready to add the sepia into the collection, but I do love that this black and white image has got a very slight sepia tint. And then when we go on to the Pearl, again, it's inspired by analog, which is a running theme throughout all of my digital presets. Long before I even offered analog, a lot of people used to think that my images had like an analog vibe, which I've always leaned into because I just think analog, it gives images a real nostalgia to them, which is definitely one of my brand values. These are my two black and white presets side by side, and you can see that we've got Old Hollywood, which is a much cleaner preset, and then we've got the Pearl, which is a bit more grainy, lower contrast, slightly more sepia toned. So this is my one that I go to for like old vibes, like romance, really tender moments. This one is my all-rounder that I use for everything. Out of the two, each one gives images such a different vibe. And then we've got the raw and then the three presets here. And I really wanted to show this because I wanted you to see how similar the skin tones are to the original, but how they're just so flattering. And that's something that's really important to me because I work with people from all around the world and I want them to know that whatever skin colour they have, they feel represented in my photo, not just an afterthought. I guess the same way as a makeup artist would be expected to have foundation for everybody. I want to make sure that everybody feels confident in my images, so that's really important to me. So I'm going to start with Lightroom Classic, and I'm going to talk you through how I edit. And what I've done is I've got a variety of images together to work on different lighting situations, and then I've also asked some photography friends to supply some images for people that work with different camera bodies and RAWs, and I'll be showing you how the presets work on them as well. So it's a selection from a shoot that I did at Middleton Lodge, and it's one of my favourite UK venues. It was in January, so the light was super hit and miss. We had only about 10 minutes of soft light, and then it did get quite harsh for most of the day. But luckily, because it was winter, we did get a little bit of a golden vibe for about 5 seconds before it finished. So I'm going to go through and show you what the presets look like on these images. So if you go on to develop, just using this icon, they should come up like this. And I'm just going to show you the differences, because the differences are so subtle with all of my presets, but they really lend themselves to different parts of the day and give off different emotion, which is why I flitter between all of them rather than using the same one. So this one, we've got uneven light, light coming on the side, so quite dramatic. It's not the best light, but it's not the worst. And I just want to show you, naturally, my gut tells me to use Nostalgia, which is like a gorgeous, creamy, slightly earthy preset. But then we've got Soft Touch and Soul Food as well. I just think Nostalgia, I think with the background, it just really lends itself to this image. Old Hollywood and Pearl as well. Again, because of the shadow on this side, I'm not loving it as much, but you can just go in and tweak it to your heart's content. I actually really love the shadows with this, but if I was going for the black and white, I'd probably put a radial filter on just to give a bit of light to this side. Then we've got this example, which is super harsh light. Again, I quite love Nostalgia on this one because it's quite creamy. Sometimes Nostalgia can look really green. In bad indoor lighting, when you've got artificial light, you'll put it on and think, oh my god, this preset is absolutely disgusting. But when you've got good light, it's just transported it. It's just gorgeous. It's one of my favourites for sure. And then we've got Old Hollywood and Pearl, and then Soft Touch and Soul Food. Again, here we've got some really harsh light there on the table, but I love the way that Nostalgia sort of diffuses the light. Got some gorgeous light as the sun started to go down here. Again, that one, you'll see what I mean now, where sometimes inside it can look super green. What you could do is either take the temp down, or you could go down to the colours and take the green down that way. Really important that you try and keep the white balance on as shot. It should be on that as soon as you open the preset, but if it ever looks crazy or goes super orange, just go to white balance and go up to as shot. We're getting onto the hero images now, and they're just some gorgeous ones, like Kate and Bambo looking like absolute icons. I love the Nostalgia here. You can see it's got that really earthy tone again. Or you could go for the Soft Touch or the Soul Food, which is a bit more contrasty. I think any of these look quite good, to be honest. And you can see even just upping the exposure, it makes such a big difference. Love Old Hollywood and love Pearl. With Pearl, sometimes the shadows can be a bit intense, so you just want to play with that. It depends on the subject. Most of the time, it's fine. It's just if you've got harsh light coming from one side, like in this image. But yeah, that's that one. And then I also wanted to show you a variety of shooting styles. Like this one, it's a blurry photo. So blurry photos, they're not as high quality. Sometimes that means that colours from presets can sit on them a bit funny. So I just wanted to show you, Nostalgia, for example, you can see it's got definitely more of that green vibe. But I'm just obsessed. This is the one that I used on my brochure for the longest time, and I just whacked up the grain and I was just obsessed. Again, to me, this is a black and white moment straight away. So it'd just depend on which one you wanted. You can see there that these two are slightly different in the way that Old Hollywood's got more of a sepia vibe to it. She looks so beautifully tanned on that one there. But I just wanted to show you how I would edit this. So if I was going to use colour, I'd probably use soft touch, and then I'd just go in and tweak the temp ever so slightly, because the white balance has not been changed at all on any of these presets. So sometimes if skin tones are looking a little bit flat, you just want to go in, you can up the contrast ever so slightly. That's just going to make it pop a little bit more. And then here's just one more example. Like, to me, this is a black and white moment. Just, I think they look so iconic, bless them. Probably going for the pearl on that one, just because it's giving me like runaway vibes, and I just love it. So yeah, that's a good mix of natural light situations. So next we're going to have a look at some flash and ambient lighting, because it's really different, and I've really tried to pick out not just images with really flattering light. In fact, none of the other ones that I showed you from before were amazing light. The light was quite flat in the Middleton Lodge ones, but I just wanted to show you a variety of these here. So we've got this one, for example. How stunning does Mia look? These images are all taken from my workshops. This one was from Old Money, which ties itself in so well to these presets, because that's the vibe running through them. It's like old pictures, analog, family photography kind of vibe. So again, I'm just going to put on each of these. So nostalgia, I would definitely up it, lower the contrast ever so slightly, and then maybe take that temperature down just to tweak it ever so slightly. If I was going to do black and white out of the two, probably Old Hollywood for this one. Ever so slight differences, but I'm just loving that. I think it just looks clean. I'm really enjoying it, and that's a one click for me. Soft touch and soul food, out of the two of them, soul food's hitting it. It's my go-to. Flat, it just loves flash. And I just think her skin looks absolutely flawless. And yeah, really, really happy with that. Then we've got some examples of ambient lighting. So this is when the sun first started to go down. So this is not super dark, but the nostalgia looks really, really good on this. Really, really just adds that element of ambience, and yeah, I'm really enjoying it. Black and white, again, looks great. These are all one clicks for me. Pearl and Old Hollywood, ever so slight differences there. And then we've got soft touch, which to me it doesn't look edited enough. I feel like ambient light lends itself to black and white, but if you are going to go for a preset, you probably want to go for the nostalgia in this case, I would say. I'm then going to show you the table, a couple of other ambient lit tables. So this one is so orange. So we've got nostalgia, Old Hollywood. The temptation when you've got awful light is just to go for a black or white, and these would look great. But do consider going for other ones and turning down the vibrancy, playing with the temperature. These are all things that you can do. I mean, as it stands, I think this one looks gorgeous in black and white. But those are some things that I would do if I was trying to save an image and I didn't want to put it in black and white. This is a really good example of when soul food would be great, but also soft touch. It's just that little bit softer, and that is the one that I am edging towards. I love that you can see the tea light candles that you've got all around the room and a little bit of Chelsea's outfit, but I'm just going to try and up the shadows ever so slightly because I don't want to lose this like dramatic vibe. This is an example of me shooting with tights. So sometimes I'll use different things over my lens to try and get different effects. And this one was to show off sparkle. Something that I do all the time is I shoot through tights if I'm shooting something with sequins, because it just makes the sequins pop. My instinct is to put black and white on this, but you'll lose all of the detail. So I think with something like this, I would go up, move the shadows all the way across, and then crop. Oh, just love it so much. And then just a few more examples. So we've got this gorgeous image of Glenn and Tom. I mean, this just screams black and white to me. I'm really, really, really enjoying this. Yeah, I just think they look iconic. And then we've got this gorgeous shot of Chelsea, which again is flash. And you can go through, see how the different presets have different effects on it. I actually love Pearl for this. I'd then go in on Photoshop and remove her bruise. But it also looks great with these two, and those two are just one clicks again. So yeah, that is flash and ambient light. Okay, so next I'm going to be going through some Fuji frames, and these were really kindly sent to me by Emma Pilkington, who is an incredible photographer. You're probably seeing me sway to this one more often now, but any of the ones that I pick, I mean, I love tables in black and white. Pearl gives it a real analog vibe. Soul Food I really love. But for destination, I really love nostalgia. I'm going to up the exposure, lower these highlights, and then I'm going to up the temperature just to get those colours to pop. And you can see it just looks like it could be in a magazine. I'm so happy with that. Same vibe on this one. I'm going to try a different one. So nostalgia, we know at this point that it looks great. And we can put that up like that, add a bit more grain in, and that looks great. But I'm also loving Pearl as well. Oh, I'm just in love with that image. So happy with that image. I'm going to try and find some with people in. Here we go. So whichever one we go for out of the colour, it's looking a tiny bit flat. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to up it ever so slightly and then up the temperature. And then I would be pretty happy with that. I'm just going to lower these highlights ever so slightly. And I would be happy with that. I also think it looks great in black and white. And then I'm just going to try and find a few different lighting situations. So we've got this one. Fuji colours are just absolutely gorgeous. I would love it. If they were a little bit quicker, I would love to use Fuji's for weddings, because I just think the colours are so gorgeous. But don't worry, Sony, I'm not cheating on you. You're still my fave. So with this one, instinctively, I go to the Pearl because I just think she looks like a goddess in this image. But I also feel like these two, out of the two of them, can you see the way that her dress changes? The colours are just looking a little bit exaggerated with Soul Food. And this is a really good example of when soft touch is great. I'm loving those whites, but they are looking a little bit brighter than everything else. And then I'm just going to up the warmth ever so slightly. I do find that when I'm editing second shooters work that use Fuji, they do make people look really pale. All the other colours are gorgeous, but they make people look quite pale. So quite often I have to use the drop tool either here or further down with the colour section, just to bring down the luminance and just make them look a little bit more tanned. I've also got on here some gorgeous Nikon ones, which I'm going to have a look at now, from my good friend Clare Smith Photography. So here's just an aisle set of flowers, and you can see how the different presets give a slightly different vibe. Soul Food's definitely my favourite here. I do think this comes it looks very contrasty. So I'm going to bring that really far down, lower the temp and lower the exposure and just have a little play until I'm happy with it. And I really, really love that. On to the next one. We've got some gorgeous yellows and colours and all the rest of it. And this is when the presets are really going to shine. So again, it's really important to me that the colours stay as true to colour as possible. But I do really struggle with yellows and peaches. So what I would do is I would put the preset on, but then I would go in and tweak it for those colours. So for example, if I use soft touch first, in fact, that's looking pretty good. I'm pretty happy with that. But say if I was going to use Soul Food, which is my go-to, I'd bring that up, bring the highlights down, and then I'm just going to have a play now because the contrast is bugging me a little bit because it's taking stuff away. So what I do quite often when I'm editing is I'm constantly pressing the / bar or the / whatever it is, just to see what the before and after look like, because I never want an image to be too edited. And I'm finding that their skin is just looking a little bit flat. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go in and I'm going to use a linear filter, and then I'm just going to do that ever so slightly. There we go. So now the flowers, and they look, yeah, really happy. I'm now going to go on to Canon, and these images have been provided by Jabez Alexander, who is an absolute legend. And again, he's tried to give me a variety of different lighting situations, which is so kind of him. This one's a good one to show off the different skin tones, and you can see how these, like for me, that looks way too edited. I don't like it at all, and so often nostalgia is my favourite, but in this one, not at all. But these two, absolutely gorgeous. This one's inside. Love the black and white on this one. That's the one click for me. Love the pearl, actually. All of them are really good. Gorgeous photo by Jabez there. This one is a really good example of when the lighting is really tricky, and actually I would employ other things basically to help me edit this photo, such as cropping, because I feel like if her leg is out and it's super bright and then we've got this picture, no matter what you do, it's just going to look really, really silly. So I'm going to try and save this picture. Right. Oh, she's looking so gorgeous. What a babe. But I'm not really happy with the tones. I feel like it almost looks a little bit washed out. So then I'm going to try this one and just try and reduce the highlights. There we go. Really happy with that. That's everything that I want from a black and white. It's giving me drama. But that's why I'd always recommend playing with the highlights and the shadows before you start going into the curves and changing everything. Sometimes even contrast, I find it easier to mess with these two rather than contrast loads. But again, that's just something that works for me. And then I'm going to show you, again, the light. It's like, okay, it's backlit. So he saved it by shooting backlit. And you can see how the different presets work. I mean, that light coming through her hair is just stunning. And if we bring that all the way up, oh, I'm really, really happy with that image. I just think it's gorgeous. So yes, whichever one you go for, again, you can see there's quite a big difference there between the pearl and the old Hollywood, but so many of these have been one-click situations. But hopefully me going through how I edit in a little bit more detail gives you a little bit of a clue as to what you could do if the presets aren't hitting straight away. But yeah, thank you so much for being here, and I'll put a link below for where you can find them.